What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stock. Today, we're going to talk to you about the fun day we had as SoFi investors. I want to go over what moved it, the data points, and everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go down 3.47%. Didn't do all that bad in comparison to a lot of other stocks, but still nonetheless not all that great. $12.93 a low, $13.55 the high, 48.1 million for volume, 48.8 is the average. There was news that did come out. Nothing really crazy if you ask me, more fluff, but SoFi named presenting partner of the Country Music Association's CMA Fest. So this is okay. I think it's kind of similar nature to the whole NBA type of sponsorship for that, and we haven't really seen all that much. Like, you see SoFi's name around NBA games and whatever else, but nothing. We don't really know, I guess, to what extent that impacts and really draws in members. So I think this is okay news, not really any reason to go out and buy SoFi nor sell. So it is what it is. When it comes down to the news and what really influenced the market, you have potential default on the Treasury as early as August. So that's kind of influencing the market. A lot of institutions citing that there's now a 35 to 40% risk of recession for this year. At the same time, you're also having Bank of America and other entities raising their price targets on gold. So essentially, same kind of mentality that there is going to be a lot more pain in the short term. And then you have Trump stating that he's going to slap reciprocal tariffs as soon as as many as 25 countries on April the 2nd. And China has already retaliated, saying that they're going to counter. So it's another one of those scenarios. It'd be interesting to keep track of how many days that we've had no talk about tariffs over the last 3 weeks. I think there's only like probably 4 or 5 days at max that we have not heard anything about tariffs. But then again, a lot of individuals did speculate that Trump kind of does want to bring the market down to prompt a, I guess, premature rate cut to actually help with this whole restructuring to avoid a default. So kind of get a better rate for the most part. I know that was the rumored why Trump is just consistently tariffing everyone and just talking about it, and it is to cause a lot of FUD and fear. So I don't know, kind of crazy if that is true. So let me know your viewpoint on that. Shorts did return 113,000 shares. So of course, by analyzing this, it does signal that they feel like today was unjustified. So again, there's that kind of takeaway. 12.94% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 139.35 million shares. Now the fourth consecutive day of this cost to borrow minimum being positive. So there's something happening behind the scenes. Maybe some big money does feel that SoFi is going to be pulling back, and then when SoFi starts to build more momentum again, that's where they'll start to try to manipulate SoFi. I'm not really sure. So let me know your viewpoint on that. And on a side note, I know I did bring this up in my pre-market video, but 2 times per month, the NASDAQ does provide an update on the true amount of shares being shorted. So that report was yesterday. So as of March the 14th, there was 138.77 million shares overall are being shorted, works out to be 12.88%. So an increase of 5%. So ultimately, between February the 28th and March the 14th, shorts increased roughly around 7 million shares more than what we did were aware of. And a lot of that does come from this. So these are all the transactions that did occur on the Darkpool above $100,000. Sorry, that was yesterday's. These are for today. So again, Darkpool transactions are meant to kind of hide. So shorts love to use Darkpool as well as a lot of other large entities. So these are all the transactions that did occur today. So a lot of big ones, 2.8 million. And that seems to be the only transaction above 1 million for today. These are all the ones on the secondary market. So this one was a little bit more popular based on at least some larger transactions, 1.9, 1.4, 11.8, and then first thing as well, 1.8. So let me know your general thoughts on that in the comments below. You do see a string of buying that did happen right there. That for the most part was kind of this recovery, but I think just generally that was short-lived. So some institutions are seeing today's pushback as somewhat unjustified, similar to shorts, but I think algorithmic trading is really pushing down a lot of stocks, piggybacking off of the fear. And yeah, but aside from that though, looking at the options, 9.9 million in calls, 4.4 in puts, 46% of all the options being done today were bearish in nature, and I'll kind of leave that there so you can kind of see the breakdown. So 6.5 million in bearish, 6.2 in bullish, and then 1.5 in neutral. But as far as looking at this, you see a little bit higher for the total premiums, 14.3 in total million in total premiums, 10.6 on obviously yesterday, 19.7 the day prior. You see a very low put/call ratio. So again, a lot of people are essentially loading up. So that's kind of a good thing, but again, I think you need the market sentiment to be rather positive to kind of push SoFi stock price higher. So there's just a lot of optimism, but again, optimism will only take you so far. But looking right here, of the call options that were done today, you see a consensus for it to be roughly 14 to 14.50. Be interesting to see when a lot of this was done, whether it be in the first half or the second half of the trading day. Tomorrow we do have GDP followed by PCE on Friday. Clearly, a lot of the bulls are anticipating for some sort of recovery and good data, clearly. Bears are anticipating for it to be a sub roughly 12.50 for the most part. So a little bit more upside is anticipated with it at 13.07. It did close between this S1 and this S2. So $12.72 is going to be that next strong support. 13.59 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. So it did bounce off of this S1. So just take note of that going forward. No new analyst ratings, no real articles coming out talking about SoFi specific, just a lot of just insider transactions recently, and then a lot of articles talking about this right here. But quickly going back over here to the chart itself. So today with it closing at that 13 and change, it did close below the ALMA. So in the short term, watch for it to get above that 13.24 if you're going to see that nice recovery. Flip side, $11.12 will be that next strong kind of support from here. That's that 200-day moving average. So I feel like it will be a little bit of a consolidation, but maybe with good GDP or even PCE numbers, that might be that positive catalyst that SoFi does need to get it back to higher highs, roughly around that 14.50 mark. So that's where you have both the 50 and 100-day moving averages right here. So like I said, I think SoFi just generally wants to stay between that $13 and $17 range. On occasion, it will break below and above it, but for the most part is going to continue to gravitate and stay within that range. So let me know your viewpoint on SoFi. Have you been buying the dip? Did you dabble with options? For those of you that did buy call options here, at least short-term ones, you would have made some pretty good money. So same goes for this. If it does dip a little bit further, are you lining up to buy call options, or is options not your thing? So one final thing, pop over to my Patreon and get buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.